Is Spain the place for you? That is the question I want to help you answer today. I want to try to help you thoughtfully walk through big picture questions that will help you decide if Spain is a good fit for you and if you are a good fit for Spain. I've bought and sold a few houses in Spain, currently owning just one that I'm renovating, and I think I can offer some food for thought if you're trying to decide if you want to buy or rent a house there, live there for a few years, possibly even retire in Spain. Or maybe you're like me and you want to own a home there and spend half of your year there on tourist visas. If you're thinking about Spain as a place to spend a considerable amount of your time, this video is for you. Hi, my name is Nicole. Welcome to my channel, Travel to Money, where I do my best to help you learn about how to travel, adventure, and have fun on the road to financial independence, especially if that road is leading you to Spain. So, answering the question, is Spain the place for you, is obviously one that will depend on your specific situation. Today, I'm going to break this video down into 4 categories. First, we'll cover the big picture of Spain. Then we'll go over financial considerations, followed by practical matters, and finally, I'll share some of my own thoughts and experiences. Diving into the big picture, let's talk about why so many people dream of owning a home in Spain. It usually comes down to a few key factors. The Spanish lifestyle is a huge draw. It's all about enjoying life at a slower pace, savoring delicious foods, and spending time outdoors. I'm sure you can imagine yourself strolling through Spanish markets, relaxing on beautiful beaches, or enjoying tapas on an outdoor patio. These are all things I regularly enjoy in Spain. On this topic, though, I want to give you food for thought if you come from a very individualistic, capitalistic part of the world like I do. Although you may love Spain for all of the things I just mentioned and desire a lifestyle that looks just like that, the way you have been trained to be and what you want to be might be two really different things. It can be hard to go from a pace of life where you can have everything you want in an instant at your fingertips to a more relaxed pace where you have to exercise patience regularly. And this is something to be really thoughtful about. It's not just about going to a new place that has a great culture, but unlearning some things within yourself to make you more adaptable to the environment and culture you are entering. It will be better for you and the communities in Spain if you are thoughtful and intentional about this. I observe the Spanish lifestyle and I'm in awe of it, but it can be really difficult for me to turn off the part of me that expects speedy service, for example. I don't personally believe you can just unlearn all of these sorts of things before you go, but you should observe your reactions, especially as compared to locals, process them, and then work toward changing your mindset. If you don't do that, you'll just end up frustrated all the time, and trust me, that's not fun. Not to mention, you'll frustrate the local community, and that's not cool either. Let me give you an example of something I just learned in my 7th year of spending time in Spain. You'll notice if you're driving in Spain that they really tend to follow the rules of the road. And this is one of the ways I blatantly see the difference between an individualistic society and a community-driven society. So for years, I've noticed one of the main differences is the observance of the left lane for passing. We technically have the same rule in the US, but in our individualistic society in America, you may see one of the following at any point in time. First, you'll have the driver who wants to enforce the speed limit for others, who stays in the left lane and doesn't care that others can't pass. You might also have the driver who wants to get where they are going and will pass in the right lane, maybe even cutting someone else off because, let's face it, it's all about me. Well, in Spain, generally speaking, if you see someone enter the left lane, they will usually be passing someone, and as soon as they have safely passed, they go back into the right lane. It's amazing when you see a rule work as it was intended to. It's actually so much better because in this society, they aren't just thinking about themselves, but as they all work together to respect other drivers, everyone has a safer and better driving experience. But there was something I didn't even know I was doing wrong until recently. Most of the highways I have used are 2 lanes, but on my last visit to Spain, I was using a 3-lane highway. I thought I was being super respectful by hanging out in the middle lane. I'm not bothering anybody. I don't have to go around the slow people in the right lane, and I'm not slowing anyone down in the left lane. But 2 times on this one drive, some other drivers were pretty frustrated with me. Now, this was not a heavy traffic situation. I was driving between cities, so there weren't many other cars around except for the occasional car I would pass. So, on 2 different occasions, another car would be approaching from behind me in the right lane. I expected they would just pass me in the right lane, but instead they got behind me in the middle lane, flashed their lights at me, and then passed me in the left lane. After it happened the second time, I was like, oh, they really will only pass in the left lane. So for me, it's not just about staying out of the left lane unless I'm passing, but it's about staying all the way in the furthest right lane, which honestly is not that convenient. It would be easier for me to stay in the middle lane. But it's not about me. And I know this might sound futile, but I really think things like this matter. And as you spend more and more time in Spain, paying attention to things like this and having the humility to make adjustments are pretty important. You want to honor the culture you have come to be a part of. With the way that so many people from the UK and the US show up and want to do things their way, it's no wonder that they end up getting sprayed with water guns by Spanish residents who are fed up. And that doesn't mean that it will be easy, but I think it's important to ask yourself if you're willing to learn some new cultural ways of doing things, even if they aren't the way that you prefer. Another example of this is the drive of money. In the US, money generally comes before lifestyle. It drives what we expect of customer service. For example, I'm paying for this, so I expect good service. Or we expect a business owner to go out of their way to obtain our business. But in Spain, it can be different. I've had a car shop turn me away because it was a Friday afternoon and they didn't want to deal with something new before the weekend. I was so put off by that. But the thing is, this is not a culture that says, I'll do anything to earn a dollar. They prioritize their off time, their family time, their time around the table. And those things are beautiful and worth preserving. So you just have to recognize the trade-off. Another big draw for Spain is the famous Spanish climate. From the Mediterranean coast to the Canary Islands, you can expect plenty of sunshine and warm temperatures. This makes it an ideal destination for those seeking a better quality of life and opportunities for outdoor activities year-round. Of course, Spain is quite large, and depending on the weather you are looking for, you have a lot of options from ski villages in the Pyrenees to beach locations that have mild weather year-round. I've spent most of my time in the Costa Blanca area, which has plenty of parks, mountains for hiking, or even just coastal hikes, laying on the beach, and a lot of other outdoor activities that cost you nothing to participate in. This area in particular is really popular for cyclists, so if you're into cycling, you may just fall in love with the Costa Blanca area. One consideration, depending on where you are looking, could be water consumption if you are looking in an area that is having a water shortage. In my specific area of Spain, water isn't an issue, but we do deal with fires in the dry months. Another factor to think about is the summer heat in some areas. It has been significantly higher the last couple of years in many areas, including mine. Personally, visiting in the summer is just not something I'm interested in unless I was planning to spend all of my time at the beach. Cost of living is another major factor. While prices in tourist hotspots in major cities like Madrid and Barcelona can be comparable to other European capitals, many smaller towns and regions offer a significantly lower cost of living, especially when it comes to things like groceries, local produce, and eating out. When I look at cost of living, I generally categorize it in my mind by large city, mid-sized city, and small town. In almost all of the research I've done, as you go from large city to mid-sized city, there can be a significant decrease in the cost of living. And then when you go from mid-sized city to small town, there is another significant decrease. This is just my own process for identifying these segments, but for me to categorize something as a mid-sized city, you generally need to be able to get to the next big city by train. And then small towns I would categorize as places where you'd probably want to have a car. So in my analysis, if you take my region, for example, Valencia would be a big city, Gandia would be a mid-sized city, and Oliva would be a small city. Now, that's not going to always determine the level of cost of living. Obviously, there will be places like a small town on the beach that may be more expensive than even a city if it's a popular tourist area. But generally speaking, you can expect to see this pattern. So, if you're using that pattern, you'd maybe want to start by checking out the cost of living in the nearest big city. This will vary greatly depending on the region and other factors. Barcelona and Madrid, expensive. Valencia and Alicante, affordable. I've not spent any time in the other big cities, but I don't think they all look the same as far as cost. And how much the cost of living will impact you greatly depends on where you are coming from and the income available to you while you're in Spain. For example, if you're coming from New York City or Los Angeles, no matter where you choose to live in Spain, it will probably be a lower cost of living. But if you are coming from a small town in Mississippi or Oklahoma, two states with the lowest cost of living in the US, well, then you might want to make sure you're considering the most affordable places in Spain if you want to get the most out of the cost of living difference. You can't just compare the US or the UK to Spain as a whole. To really get an idea of your cost of living, you should compare the city where you are to an area in Spain where you are interested in living. Now, I live near Orlando, Florida, which has a pretty high cost of living, so my expenses in my little town of Pego, Spain, are significantly reduced for everything with the exception of electricity, which is about the same as what I pay in the US. One of the biggest areas of cost that I enjoy the most in Spain is the price to go out and eat, have a coffee, or have a beer. I definitely live on a budget no matter where I am, but in the US, where I generally only let myself go out to eat once per week, I could use that same money and go out to eat twice in Spain, and I'd also be able to add on a beer or a coffee or both, and it would still fall within my budget. Like, I no longer buy a drink when I go out to eat in the US. Why would I pay like $8 or $9 for a beer, the cost to have a case at home? But when I'm in Spain, sometimes a bottle of beer is literally the same price or even less than a bottle of water. So I really like that I don't have to think so much about enjoying food and drink that I like. So while we're on the subject, let's talk about the food in Spain, which is another draw, and I'm not talking about the cost. Now, Spanish food isn't for everyone, and this is another thing that will vary depending on the region of Spain. But Spain is widely known for seafood dishes like paella, for the Iberian ham, and for Spanish wine. Now, I'm personally not a ham person, and although I do love the paella, the traditional dishes of Spain aren't as much my personal favorite, but that's just a matter of preference. My personal preference in Europe is Greek food, and that's just me. But I'm also in no way complaining about the food in Spain. I'm just trying to make the point that you may want to consider the local cuisine because eating is something you'll generally do 3 times a day, and making sure you'll enjoy what is fresh and common around you is a good idea. Now, what I do really love about the food in Spain is the quality. The fruit and vegetables are bright, colorful, and flavorful. The chicken at any place I go to in Spain is at least 5 times better than any chicken I can find in the US. But it's not because of the way it's cooked. It's just the quality of the meat they sell. I'm not really sure, but I would guess that their food practices aren't centered around greed like they are in the US. So they probably aren't pumping things full of hormones, but don't quote me on that. I'm just saying that the quality of the food is definitely a draw for me. Okay, I think I've covered most of the big picture items that stand out to me, but if I left anything out that you would add that you think is a draw for living in Spain, definitely leave a comment below. The next thing I want to help you think through are the finances. And I know I talked about cost of living, and that is definitely a part of it, but I just want to briefly touch on other financial things to think through. If you're considering a move to Spain, you may be wanting to move all of your belongings from another country. This is not something that I did other than bringing and leaving some clothing items, but I know some people are looking for more of a permanent move. I am certainly not an expert in this area, but one of my friends, Pablo Arias from International Relocation Partner, is the kind of relational contact you want to have if you are making a move, and I'm sure he could help you work through what the costs would be. I'll leave his info in the description so you can reach out to him if moving your things is a priority. If you are planning on becoming a resident of Spain, this will mean a different tax system, and if you're from the US or some other countries, you'd also be dealing with tax advisors to make sure you're not double taxed. This is another area where I'm not an expert, but I'm going to leave my affiliate link in the description for my friends from Moving to Spain who help people navigate this process. They have a free roadmap, so be sure to sign up for their emails. If you decide to use any of their consulting services, they've offered my followers a 10% discount, so be sure to use the code TTM10. With taxes, so much of that is really going to depend on what your income level is and if you'll be looking to get employment in Spain or will be working remotely, or maybe you're going to be living on retirement funds. But taxes are definitely an area to be thoughtful about as you do your planning. Another financial area to consider is banking, including the cost of a bank account in Spain, which is not all that much, but for those on a tight budget, you'd want to plan for about €40 per quarter. What could be more impactful is the currency exchange rate, and this could be good or bad for you depending on where you're coming from. Even though the US dollar and the euro are similar in value at the moment, that can fluctuate, and if you're constantly transferring money, you may want to factor in fees. For currency exchange, I've used the same company for 8 years and they're fantastic. I'll leave an affiliate link for them in the description as well. Speaking of affiliate links, I want to let you know that when you use my links, some of the time that means I'll earn a small commission, but it doesn't cost you anything extra. It's a great way for you to support my channel instead of just Googling something that I mention. I really appreciate those of you who take the time to do that for me. I'm very committed to only recommending products and services that I believe in. Another financial consideration when moving would be healthcare. I know in Spain, it's very affordable and the healthcare is really good. So in most cases, that would probably be a savings area for you. But you should still look into your options, especially if you are dealing with something like a pre-existing condition or have medical needs that you can foresee. Now that we've covered some financial things to consider, let's talk about other practical matters to put on your list as you consider your options. Obviously, if you're planning a move here, you'll want to look into visa and residency options. The folks I mentioned before from Moving to Spain are a great resource for this area. The next area to consider is what you're planning to do for housing. And honestly, here you have a lot of great options, even starting with Airbnb if you are looking for long-term rentals like 1 month or more. You can find really good deals, especially in the off-season. Now, of course, this really depends on where you're going in Spain. And that is something I would be thoughtful about too. Don't be fooled into thinking that Barcelona and Madrid are the best because that's what you hear a lot about. Nothing wrong with Barcelona or Madrid, but they don't even make the top 10 places for me personally. And honestly, they're overrun with expats and tourists anyway. I'd encourage you to explore lesser known destinations that won't be as impacted by your arrival. And even though I love being a homeowner in Spain, if you haven't found the city for you yet, rather than starting on the path to buy a home, I'd recommend staying in a few places, renting longer Airbnbs, and seeing what fits you. Like, I love my town of Pago. It's perfect for me, but it's not perfect for everyone. Finding the city or town that fits you is like dating. You need to try it out and see if there's any magic between you. If you do find the place you love, long-term rentals are an option and can also be affordable, and buying a house is also a great option, especially if you will be living there full-time. If buying a house in Spain is something you know you want to pursue, I offer one-on-one coaching sessions to walk you through the process and help you navigate pitfalls to avoid, giving you my referrals and info to help you along your journey. You can find bookings available at traveltomoney.com/coaching. Another practical matter is the language. If you're like me and you don't speak Spanish, I think it's pretty important to work on learning the language. It's taking me forever, but I'm getting better and better with time and really hope to be fluent within the next year or so. This will be good for both you and the local community. Put the effort in. It's worth it. Now, this isn't to say that you can't get around in English, but because that's not the local language, I just personally think putting in the effort shows that you care about the community and the culture. If you're one of those people who think that everyone everywhere needs to speak to you in English, you really shouldn't move to another country. Another practical matter for you might be transportation and how you'll get around. If you live in a city, you can probably just walk or use public transportation. I do own a car in Spain and I love having it, but when I'm in my town, I hardly ever drive it. It's really just used to get from town to town. If you want to know more about buying a car in Spain, I've got a video on that too, and I'll link it in the description. And then the other area I would mention is social life. I personally think that Spain has been a great place to build community. Being a non-Spanish speaker so far, it has been really nice to have so many other expats around. I love my community there, but I think it's important to reach out and find out how you can get involved and get to know people. Spain is a country of celebration, so there are always events happening. I recommend joining local Facebook groups of expats to learn about things happening in your area. These Facebook groups can be really useful for other recommendations as well. But I just want to emphasize that it's important to find a way to connect. Okay, that covers the list of practical things to think about. Now I just want to talk for a minute about my own personal thoughts. Spain has become my second home. I can't tell you how good I feel every time I'm on the drive approaching my town. It's been 7 years and the magic is still there for me. I find it such a privilege to be able to take part in the community where I live, and I sincerely appreciate the residents there who are welcoming and share their country with those of us who want to learn more about the culture. I also appreciate an afternoon nap. All joking aside, I think the journey to Spain is worth it, but that's for me. Is it the place for you? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to chat with you there. Thanks so much for being here with me today. Do me a favor, like this video and subscribe to join me every day, where travel and adventure build financial freedom. I can't wait to see where your dreams will take you.